to attract talent. It's even more difficult to engage and retain them. Hi, this is Yashika. Welcome to our special People and HR series at Voice of Achievers. Today we explore the intricacies of effective people management in the modern workplace with Mr. Yuvaraj Srivastava, the Group CHRO at MakeMyTrip. He brings a wealth of experience from his tenure at organizations such as Asian Paints, the Oberoi Group, and PepsiCo India. He's been recognized for his contributions to the field of HR, especially for his innovative approach to HR practices. We dive into various facets of people management, including working with unfamiliar people and teams, the concept of outsourcing training, and setting up processes from scratch. From finding and hiring the right talent through behavioral interviews to fostering a positive and enthusiastic team environment, and finally, leveraging technology, particularly AI, to shape the future of HR. There's lots in store on this episode of Voice of Achievers. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Yashika. Pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward for this conversation. Thanks for identifying me as a guest for you for your first episode. So I'm looking forward for an engaging conversation. Thanks a lot. Thanks for welcoming me.
Thank you. Yuvraj, one of the interesting things about the career trajectory that I saw was, when we say the army background, I think the first stereotype that one is hit with is discipline. Apart from that we anyway have in our mindset, what are the nuances that an army background professional brings to the HR table?
Yeah, so I think this question is asked very frequently to me, Yashika, wherever I have talked or spoken, because people see this as a very unique transition, whereas it's not something which is very unique. Many of the, Fajis do come to the corporate world, but there are many, very few who basically transition after 5 years or 6 years of their short service, right? So I did that in 97. I joined armed forces. I was a gunner officer in artillery. I joined army at the age of 20 and a half after finishing my graduation in psychology from University of Allahabad. I had not yet finished my graduation. I got selected for this exam, and then I don't think there was any other option at that point of time, rather than really waiting for a long drawn efforts towards getting into civil services, which is normally very famous and a chosen career path in the North India. I jumped onto this option and had a great learning. I always tell people that, 5.5, 6 years in army is the best management education one can get anywhere, and that too after getting paid for 6 years and serving and having great experience. So no MBA education, no management education can really beat the type of learning what you get in 5.5 years there in armed forces. So that was one of my thought, and I think that it really came true. I came back from army, did my MBA from IMT Ghaziabad. I had a qualification in psychology, as you had always been very, very intrigued and fascinated with organizational behavior, abnormal psychology, personality traits, Freud and Jung and all that stuff. So I think that I'd always been very, very keen to really work with people, and that's how the transition happened. And when people ask me that what is that you bring from army, you said discipline, but most of the time we forget that discipline, besides discipline, army also teaches you to be flexible while being disciplined. And I think that discipline, everybody says that this is what you take an order, you accept an order, you reach places in time, you do everything in a very structured way. That's what the discipline is. But discipline also means, from my point of view, flexibility of approach, right? Being very disciplined to be flexible and adaptive to the environment around. And that's what army teaches you. While you be disciplined, you also be open to ideas. You also be open to new scenarios. So that is something which really, really, I think, comes to you naturally after serving in army. I also, feel that, in army, alignment happens very quickly with the objectives of the organization where you serve. In armed forces, I don't think that you have many objectives. You have an objective of serving the country and saving the country and protecting the country. So quick alignment with the org objective and org vision happens. And
Right.
that again, what you bring to the table when you come to the organizations where you work, so you quickly get aligned. There's not much of a dissonance in your thought that, is this right? Is this wrong? Should we do it or should we not do it? You get into the organization, what the organization is trying to achieve. You don't have to make much of an effort. You straight away get aligned to that thought and you start delivering and working towards it. So that's alignment is very, very important. And I always felt that, my ability to align with the larger objective of the organization had always been uh, good for that matter. I also feel that, army teaches you to really accept the differences of people. In army, you work
Nice.
with a diverse set of people. You work with the Jawans, you work with the soldiers who come from very different background. They come from a very different background in terms of financial, economical, social background. And you start respecting the differences. You start accepting that what people bring to the table. And you start respecting the dignity of the work, what people do. A soldier is a soldier. He may not be of your cadre, but when he fights in the operations, he fights next to you. He is one of your partner who does everything for you. So I think that respecting the differences, respecting the capability of people, respecting the competence of people, and accepting them the way they are, right? In armed forces, there's no choice that if you don't like this guy, he can be really shunted out. He can
Hmm.
be fired from the job. It's not that. The regiment which has been given to you, the battalion which you are serving, the troops which you are working with, are the ones which are there with you till the time you are there, unless there's some changes happen. How do you really get best out of those set of people who are on a normal distribution curve in terms of capability, competence, attitude, motivation, drivers, is again something what you learn in armed forces, that get the best out of your people. And that's what I have seen getting reflected in whatever I have done in my career. I think that whenever any assignment I have taken, I have not changed the teams. I have worked with the teams which had been given to me, and I have been very, very happy to really see that many people who work with me in different roles, perhaps they're not doing good earlier, they started doing better later on. It was only because of the thought that, you don't choose people, you need to get the best out of people. That's something which, again, army teaches, and I feel that I brought to the table when I came to the corporate world. That's how I'll reply to this.
This is beautiful, and I like how you say that you one brings out the best in people. I'm just sort of taking this to the workplace scenario. When we're saying that as a people manager, we want the best out of people. I'm sure most people, all the people managers want to. But where does one draw the line, Yuvraj, in terms of when do you know that you must take a hard call as an HR professional or a people manager that this is definitely not working out with X professional?
I think when I got selected in armed forces, Yashika, let me again take you back to 1990 in the Bhopal Services Selection Board. We were 75 of us who were there for the selection process, and people were from a different background. Somebody from Chandigarh, somebody from Delhi. I came from Allahabad, as not so big town, a Hindi medium student. People get carried away by the general disposition of the individuals, and people felt that, these are the guys who will definitely make it. These are the guys who are keeping quiet, they'll not make it. But finally, two people made it out of that whole uh, boys of a very affluent families and people who came from a very, very urban background. Uh, and the uh, General Saab who came and declared our result, he said that, um, everybody has potential, everybody has capability. It's only a question of you identifying the right set of place for you to really deliver your talent. Amitabh
Mm,
Bachchan also came for the services selection board but was not selected. So you
mm,
guys should not get disheartened if you have not made it. If you have made it, it's good. If you have not made it, you are made for something better, maybe in future. So what I'm trying to say is that everybody has capability.
mm,
And when you look at in the organizations, it's very easy to really uh, compartmentalize people that who are doing well and who are not doing well. It's more important to spend time with the people who are not doing well and figure out what talent and capabilities they bring to the table and in what roles they can do better. I think if that process is followed, then people can be really look for a different role. People can have very different drivers of motivations, right? People can be sitting in the wrong roles. And if that be so, the first requirement of a manager is to really figure out that what the fellow is good at and where the person should really be deployed, rather than really writing off and making it a very binary decision of either in or out sort of a thing for an individual. Having said that, if you have to really also look at that, where should it stop, as you asked me, uh, I think mistakes are not a problem in any organization, right? Like in MakeMyTrip, GoIbibo, and RedBus, I think that we thrive on the fact that you take risk, you work the way you want to do. If there's a mistake, organizations tolerant about it. If it's an innovative ways of working. However, if there's a mistake, ensure that you learn from that mistake and move forward rather than repeating that mistake and again and again. So if somebody is repeating the same mistake again and again and not being able to really comprehend the brief, then I think it's time for a person to really be given a feedback on that, looking for an alternate role or alternate job for a person to do in case it's not working out. And I'm sure that if that approach is that, 7 out of 10 people really turn around and start delivering. So that's what my philosophy has been. And as I told you earlier, that I have worked with the people who have been given to me as a team, not building my own team in any of my organizations. And hardly any of the organizations I would have hired people from my previous organization. Most of the people, many times leaders hire people from their previous organizations because they have their comfort levels. So I think, to answer your question, repetition of mistakes and again, despite of clear brief, is a red flag. And that's the time when one should be looked for an alternate role, alternate job, or figuring out more what the motivation of the person is.
This is
Yeah.
interesting, and I'm going to pick on one of the aspects that you brought up. You said it's important for people managers to understand what motivates the team member, what motivates them, and maybe they may be sitting in the wrong role. So understand, and then help them pivot. Is there a framework, or is there a tip that you would like to share, if any, or a story, if any, that uh, can help upcoming people, managers, or leaders spot that in their team members?
So, I think my theory has been that don't look at people's functional capability at the outset. Many times when you start looking at people in your function, whether it's a finance, HR, marketing, sales, you start looking at these 4 or 5 skills. Like in case somebody is in HR, how good a person is in understanding the compliances, how good a person in terms of understanding the theories of learning and development, how good a person is maybe in comp and ben understanding. My theory has always been to look at the basic bare bone intellect and attitude of a person.
Nice.
I ask in interviews questions which are not connected with the function. I try to figure out how well aware a person is about things around him or her, right? And if the basic intellect, good attitude is present, I think you can always mold a person and help the person develop, functional skills. If you try to get onto a person and say that you can't really do a payroll, you can't really do a employee connect, you can't really deliver a program well, I think that you are jumping the gun. You are not being fair to an individual. If the talent is there, talent gets reflected and manifested in things which are not directly connected with the work. Talent get manifested by things which are not at the workplace, not connected to the work. People who are doing great in extracurricular in the organization, people who basically are very positive in the conversation, people who are very disciplined at the workplace, people who have shown a lot of keenness to really participate and ask questions. These are some of the areas which shows the keenness of an individual. These are some of the threads which you can really pick it up and identify people who have potential, zeal, and keenness to do well. And then rest of the things can always be built. Rest of the things have to be trained. So from my point of view, I always advise people that when I hire good human beings. I hire people who are honest. I hire people who have good attitude. I hire people who are positive, and rest of the things I can really build on. Or they are table stake, because if you're getting into a role, I don't think that you will not be having any skills around that. So that's the framework I normally use. Ashka, I ask questions many times in my interviews to people that, uh, if you're married, if I need to ask your wife that, what are a couple of things she would like you to change? People, what is this question?
That's
I'll ask people that, I ask people that, if I have to call up your mother right now, and I'm sure that mothers and wives are and spouses are very honest. If your mother has to be asked that what she would like to really be changed in you as a person, what would that be? People come out with very spontaneous answers, and those answers basically give you an idea that what the person is, because the questions are laced with emotions. Questions are laced with personalized uh, requirement of answer, and question is also laced with something which you can really fool around. And if that brings out the real personality of people. For me, it's important to hire people who are great human beings, great attitude, zeal to work, and also beat themselves in their own standards. And rest of the things can really be really worked upon. I don't think that one should really get after evaluating functional skills to the depth uh, which are not needed during the hiring process.
So I think one of the things that you actually mentioned, that there are some things that can be and some that cannot be taught. What is it with respect to people management in leaders that cannot be taught in institutes, and that one learns as one manages or trains people or is on the job?
Yeah. So, um, if you imagine a sports field, right, whether it's a football or a cricket, right, when you go to open the batting or while you are on the pitch, you might have done a lot of net practice. You might have really learned to play fast ball, seam ball, spin, swinging yorkers, and all that. But when you reach to the pitch, situation is very different. You need to really adapt to the situation. You need to adapt to the situation in which your team is, rather than really showing your brilliance, right? And that is something which is a brass tacks. Similarly, when you go to the battlefield, you may do a lot of drills at the workplace in the peace time. But when you go to the battle uh, field, everything changes. Your enemy can be different, your weapon can be different, your terrain can be different, your partners can be different, the weather can be different, the overall morale can be different, everything can be different. And at that point of time, what happens, your basic theoretical learning only gives you a foundation to really pivot your thinking. It doesn't give you solution for the real situation what is at hand. And the same thing happens in the corporate world. Your theoretical learnings are only ensuring that your foundations are strong, but it doesn't give you a solution for the situation what you are facing. And at the workplace, I think that people dynamics, people can be different, right, Yashika? In one organization, you can work with very different set of people. You work with European company, you may have to work with a very different set of people. You work with the American multinational, you'll have a very different set of people you'll be interacting with. You work with Indians, it will be a very different set of people. And this does not really get taught anywhere. Cultural nuances can be taught, but how people dynamics play out in the organization is not taught. You need to really learn this, and you need to have keen observation. You need to have keen understanding of the human behavior. You need to understand the keen drivers of people, what really motivates somebody else to do something, what basically derails somebody's behavior. All these areas are something what you learn on the job. This is not taught in the institutes. You can't really understand, you may understand human behaviors. Personality types can be taught at the institutes, right? But how the personalities manifest their behavior at the workplace can never be taught. And that only comes with an experience. Other thing is what is not taught is the prioritization. Organizations are very dynamic. If you get stuck to your own priority list and you are not syncing your priority with the priority of your stakeholders, priority of your organization, then you are not delivering to anyone. Neither you're delivering to yourself, nor you're delivering to the organization, nor you're delivering to the stakeholders. So prioritization, again, with a changing set of scenarios, the changing set of demand, changing set of market ecosystem, again changes, and you only learn at the workplace, that what how you need to really prioritize. This doesn't get taught at any of the institutes. Frameworks can be given, but finally you need to really calibrate and maneuver through this. And last is, I think, innovation and creativity happens at the workplace, Yashika. Innovation and creativity doesn't happen in the classroom. Innovation and creativity to show itself requires, subjects, requires situation, requires a problem. And unless you have all these 3 or 4 elements, your creativity cannot really come out. And this again happens at the workplace while you are faced with the situation. So clearly, I think that understanding of people dynamics, understanding how to prioritize things, realizing that how creativity and innovation can be at the fore is something which comes at the workplace with experience, with the right set of people, rather than really
I like how
teachings.
you bring this up, and I'm going to probe a little bit here. When we talk about creativity and innovation, one of the key roles or responsibilities as people managers for most is to bring out the creativity and innovation of the team members. Is there a tip, again, or a framework that you have experienced and successfully used to help your team members or to bring out that creative spark in them? What can be a good way or a framework?
I think one thing which I always tell people is that you need to, and within HR, I always say that, uh, think of not building HR, think of unbuilding HR. If you will
Interesting.
unbuild HR, you will think creatively. If you will try to build HR, you'll only think on the track what has been given to you. For an example, if I have to really share with you, when GoIbibo, MakeMyTrip, RedBus merger happened, there was a leave policy which had to really be defined. And every organization had a very different leave policy, Yashika.
Nice.
Somebody had 24 days in a year, somebody had 32 days in a year, somebody had 28 days in a year. Now imagine a situation wherein the organization, which is the biggest one, had 24 days leave. And if everybody of this organization goes to 32 days leave, then the number of people multiplied by additional number of days, it would have been a very different set of productivity coming to the workplace, right? And there are a lot of discussion happening in policy alignment.
Mm.
And a thought came up that why do we need a leave policy? And then people got on to figuring out, let's look at the leave availment details of individuals. And everybody realized that people don't take more than 18, 20, 24 days leave in a year. And most of the time, leaves are either balanced or leaves are carried forward. And leaves are supposed to be sanctioned by the managers within the given framework.
Mm.
So we said that why do we need to have this? Let's remove the leave policy and say take leave whenever you need, provided your manager sanctions it. And then people had a lot of resistance. People thought, what is this solution? I said that yes, obviously, if you look at the record, 80% leave is only getting availed by everyone.
Mm.
Why to get on to creating a policing system and putting a system of, sanctioning of leave through the HR processes and the guidelines? We came out with this idea and we implemented it. Last 4 years, 5 years, we have no leave policy, which says that leave policy says that manager can sanction leave whenever it is needed. And we see that number of days of leave availed by people are more or less same what it used to be when the policy was there. So that was a creative solutioning of a problem what we had in hand. So there can be many things as a process. When you look at goal setting process, organizations run after everyone every quarter to set your goals, evaluate yourself, fill up your feedback form. We have been contemplating that how can we really take this process to the individuals and say that, hey, you are responsible to finalize your goals. You are responsible to give your feedback, how you have done. Organization will not chase you. Can we really have a process wherein you rate yourself and tell us how you have done? And then it will only be validated, sort of a thing. So I think there can be many ways of looking at creativity and innovation at the place. First thing is that you need to completely come out of a structure of policies, guidelines, redundant systems of 80 years, 100 years. Think more in the context rather than really thinking within the context. Now many things what happens in HR are driven by the fact that HR started with the concept of, servant master relationship way back in early 90s and in century. When people used to come to the work, they never had any other job, and masters used to tell them what to do, and they used to go after 9 hours. Many things continue to be the same, whereas the generations have changed, educated people have come to the workforce. There's a lot of issue in terms of retention, attrition, and all, but we still follow the same models and the frameworks what we do in the way back. So I think it's important to really think out of the box by coming out of your own framework and then challenge things. And if you challenge things, you get solutions. And that's how I tell people that, some people came and gave me a presentation on uh, entitlement on travel policies. How can we really change it with a grid of, you know, city A, city B, city C. We said that, why do we need this? Why can't we really have trust in people and assume that they'll go and spend money the way they will spend their own money in travel and stay? Can you really drive that sort of a thought process? So I think creativity and innovation at the workplace will only come in once you come out of your structured thought process of baggage of the past, and you look at solutioning without getting caught by the policies, guidelines, and think of unbuilding processes rather than building processes. If you'll unbuild, you'll be creative and innovative.
This is again an interesting experiment that you bring up. Tell me, Yuvraj, is it easy to completely give the control to and hold the team member responsible? You decide, your OKRs, your goal setting. How much leeway is too much leeway as a people manager to be given to a team member? And do they really embrace it and perform then?
Why do they come to the workplace? Tell me. Why do people come to the work? Why do people join organizations? If you have a premise that people come to the organization to work, prosper, deliver, grow, become successful, and that's why they have done education and that's what they want to see themselves in life, then you will treat them as an adult. You will not treat them as a class teachers, wherein you will give them a homework to come and do it, right? I have not asked you to come and work with me, right? There are people who are working with organizations on their own premise. When they come to the organization, they come their own volition. Most of the cases, I'm just taking it as a generic example, right? Why do you cage adults in the processes which are meant for kids? And if you do it that way, then you basically condition them to really keep waiting for the guidelines to do things which can help them propel their career. Why can't you let certain things which are important for you to do to grow in your career be done by you? Way back, Yashika, training always used to happen in the rooms.
Right.
And around a decade back, many organizations got on to creating a budget for individuals. Okay, person A has a budget of 20,000 rupees in a year. You decide what trainings you want to do. Please go and do it. Identify a program in the open workshop or identify a program within the organization and please join it. Why should I tell you that you need this training program? Why you also know what your aspirations are, what sort of training programs aligns with your thought process and your need. And that's how it started working in many companies. In PepsiCo, we used to do that. You give a budget to people and say that you decide what you want to do, right? And many organizations do it like that. So that was a change in the way you look at learning and development and training. Can you really look at things with a similar lens in every process and try to unbuild? You will come to a solution which can be creative and innovative, Yashika.
Has there been a challenge when, you may have implemented this with any team member to embrace it?
On learning or the performance management systems and all?
Performance management systems, yes.
People will have resistance. People will have that leave policy change. Managers came back and said, how do we tell people not to take leave? Because there's no policy. We said, that's your job. Are you not accountable to deliver the work through your team? If you have a work and you don't want a person to go on leave, you tell the person you can't go on leave. Having an uncapped policy does not really mean that you can go on leave whenever you want. Having an uncapped leave policy means that your manager is supposed to be telling that, yes, you can go on leave and you can come back after so and so days. I don't think there's a guideline. So I think ownership at the both end basically creates that sort of a system which can be very, very evolved. And trust in the team members, ownership at the both end, at the manager and the employee or the team member, basically makes an organization far more happier, successful, innovative, and creative, Yashika.
You spoke about the evolution of HR, Yuvraj, and from the servant to master relationship. Now that we live in an era of technology and that there is a a conversation about AI taking over and technology taking over multiple job functions, so to say. What will the role of the HR manager or the people leader be then?
In the changing scenario,
Yes.
there was a saying in army that machines are good, but man behind the machines are always important, right? Whatever amount of AI, automation, technology comes in, I think that you would always need great managers who can manage those processes. It's not that everything will get managed on its own. That's why you will see, like in MakeMyTrip, we have half of the guys in HR are engineers by background. And nowadays, most of the people also do. If you go to the management institutes, you'll find many people coming with an engineering background. But the fact is, HR or the people processes are no more the same humanities subject, right? You have very technically qualified kids coming and joining HR. And so the first requirement is to have best of the people to manage the processes. If it is automated, if it is technology driven, everything, your work as an individual far more becomes keener, sharper, and important, because the technology pop can really create a lot of issues. So you need more intelligent people to really man that. And that's where the HR would, or the sharper HR professionals will be far more successful. So that's how they should think of automation, AI, machine learning will enable the processes, but you'll need far more capable people to manage those. That is one thing. I think other important thing what people need to understand, and for the HR professional especially, is that there's no time to really assimilate and learn for long. So organizations are fast, dynamic. There is no 6 months management training program for you to really learn everything and then come and start delivering.
Right.
It's important for you to ensure that while you are doing one job, you are also understanding the other job which is not there with you. So how do you deliver with speed? How are you mentally agile to really also appreciate what's happening around? And you are also mentally calculating yourself that, what is making impact and what is not making an impact will make you successful. Your ability to differentiate between value-adding activities and non-value-adding activities, and then focusing on value-adding activities will again be one skill which will be very important.
Nice.
And we keep doing this in our organization every year, that what all we did last year, what are the things which we should really remove.
Constant reviews.
Constant reviews and removing things which are not making sense. We used to have a full and final process, which in every organization will have. Full and final process in most of the organizations will have a lot of to and fro in terms of mail, calculations being sent to the person who has gone out, comes, he reviews it, it comes in, somebody else reviews it. So in the whole process, even in the separation and onboarding of people, there can be many non-value adding activities which are not needed, or some of the activities which can happen before the person comes on board. So I think ability to differentiate value adding and non-value adding activities, and focusing more on value adding activities and being far more efficient in delivery will again be important for people to deliver. Last but not the least is HR. We say that HR is an enabling process. It is an enabling process, but HR has become very important and critical in every organization. HR is not only supposed to be subject matter expert when it comes to people. HR has become a very, very consultative role. They have become consultants to many managers in the organizations, because, gone are the days when the people managers or the top senior leaders would always be having that sort of an exposure of handling large teams. Today, you have a lot of people who come who may not have an experience of handling teams, and they have been entrusted with the job of leading teams. So the HR leaders who can handle transitions of such leaders in the organization effectively would be again very successful. Ensure that all the people who are coming from other organizations to your organizations, they are transitioned quickly, they can deliver quickly, and they settle down better in the organization. They embrace the organizational culture faster. So these are some of the important roles what HR folks will have to do. And if they do these roles, I think they will rise and shine in the organization and they'll create an impact.
Interesting. If you were to look back, there've been so many industries. There's been the FMCG, manufacturing. There's been the service industries. Has there been one aspect which has remained a constant challenge in terms of people that one needs to navigate as an HR professional or a people manager? What would that be?
Uh, you're asking about the challenges which remains.
Constant across any industry. If there's
Mhm.
one challenge that Yuvraj as an HR professional goes back to and thinks of, ki, this has constantly been a challenge as an HR professional, and that anybody as a people manager will have to embrace as they step into the.
I think that's more. My thought is more towards individual behavior and leadership traits. Many times as leaders, we are not able to bring in a balance between our aspirations and organization's requirement. And what I mean to say is that I may like to do something which is a path-breaking initiative, right? Which can be a big experiment from my side. And that's my aspiration as a professional, because that will also establish me as a great professional in the fraternity, in the industry. But the fact is, my organization is not ready for it.
Interesting.
And that challenge is uh, that challenge is immense, and people falter on those challenges and they harm themselves as well as the organizations. Let me explain it with an example. uh, AI, automation, technology, all these are order of the day, right? But the fact is that not all the organizations are ready for these transitions in their current state. If you have a leader who's very aspirational to do something very, very high end in terms of a HR automation or the process automation, and wants to do it and will do it without appreciating the need of the organization and the readiness of the organization, what will happen is he will do his own bit, or she will do her own bit, but it will not succeed because organization is not prepared for it. So I think the constant challenge of striking a balance between your aspirations
Nice.
and organization's expectations and requirement is something what will continue, and one should be very, very careful about this. How do you really manage to both balance this?
Beautiful. What does achievement mean to you, Yuvraj?
uh, Very philosophical question. I think you know achievement for me would be what, uh, I would say I should define my own 5 on 5, and if I
Okay.
achieve that, I should be happy with it. Because I always believe that your ratings, evaluations in the organizations or by people are always relative. Yashika can be 4, I can be 3 on the scale of 5, but she's 4 only because I am 3. It's not that she is in absolute term 4, right? How do I define my own 5 on 5 and continuously meet that 5 on 5, rather than really getting carried away by the fact that I am 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 because somebody else has been 3 out of 5. Are you getting what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So it's your own benchmarks, and meeting those benchmarks is something important. And that's how I say that for me, achievement is this, not my rating, not my increments, not my work. Achievement, again, on the other hand, is uh, my credibility. If people come to me and say that if I have reached to you and I know that it will be a fair call, if people come and talk to me, and not to me, I'm saying that to anybody, if they come and say, we trust you and we know that what you will do will be in the best interest of the organization and people, I think that's an achievement for me. That's not something which is mean to me, and that's a biggest reward if I have to really look at it that way, rather than really looking at what I have delivered. So one keeps you at peace, one makes you sleep at peace in the night if
Nice.
people say that you are trustworthy guy. And second one is keeps you on toes when you say that your 5 on 5 is your 5 on 5. That keeps you on toes and keeps you awake, or rather wakes you up in the morning every day to be really again rejuvenated and do your best.
That truly are the words of a people manager, people leader, Yuvraj. But thank you so much. Thanks for your insights and your experiences. It was lovely having you on the show. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Yashika. Good talking to you.